Good afternoon and welcome to this moment in our history of our church and actually the history of our community, local community, wider community, and world community, because we are going to be discussing a topic that has become relevant in so many ways. In fact, it's more than relevant. It's a moment in time in history that demands that we look at it. And it is an reality of races, human beings who are from different races, and they are joined together in a common bond that we have called humanity. And where humanity is, that's where God is. And each and every individual is a child of God, no matter what color the skin is. And so today it's important to look at the reality that we live in, a reality that has been happening in the United States actually for over 400 years. 401 years ago, I think it is, that the first ships came over from Africa with black men and women in chains. And they arrived at these shores and they were sold. And they were sold to owners who were white to work the hard manual work of the fields. And this reality has kept the black race in such a position in our world and in the United States that it has taken all these years where the boiling point came, of all places, Minneapolis, where Mr. Floyd was murdered. He was held down on the ground for 9 minutes, and his life was spent by being choked to death. The tragedy is not only did this happen, but it happened that the whole world has seen the reality of this sin. And that, my sisters and brothers, is why we're here today. We are here to talk about the sin of racism. In my own family, in the 1920s, my mother and father came to the United States after they were married. And they came to the States hoping for a new life. And it took a number of years to gain the respect and gain a place in this country, because the Italians were subjugated to many unkind things. But it wasn't only the Italians, it was the Irish before the Italians. It was the other nationalities who came here who had to fight their way up by getting the opportunity to have an education, to procuring a job, to find a place in this world. In over 400 years, the black community has struggled to find a place. Not only in Minneapolis, but what we saw here in Atlanta, what we saw in Texas, what we saw in various parts of these United States. The tragedy of not thinking that a black person is a human being. And so today we invited our parishioners here, people of color, and we've asked them to share with us, to take a moment to express in their own hearts and minds their own experiences. And we would like to do it in a very prayerful and truthful way, and a way that enlightens all of us to know that we are children of the Father in his Son, Jesus. I would like to have those who are participating in this forum to introduce themselves.
My name is Catherine Nganga. I've been a parishioner here at St. Anne's since 2000. I am involved in the Eucharistic ministry and I'm a sacristan. Thank you.
Sisters, my name is Alonso Rig. My family and I have been members of St. Anne's for about 20 years. We have participated in religious education, the EDGE program, and lately I have been admitted to be part of the diaconate formation, and that's taking a lot of my time for service to the church.
Hello, my name is Joyce Simmons Celestine, and I am with Superior Catering. I was introduced to the St. Anne family by parishioner Myra Feister about 17 years ago to bring catering services here. I've had the privilege of catering for several of the ministries, to include the 50 Plus Rewards Group, Knights of Columbus, the Women Guild, the Spanish Guild, and many more. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Coombs-Blake, and I've been a member of St. Anne Parish since 2009 when I came to the United States. I'm a Eucharistic minister and I'm a lector.
Okay. I want to thank all of you for being here this evening and participating in this forum. And at this time, what we'd like to do is to have Teresa do a scripture reading to set the tone of who we are and why we are and what is our goal. Teresa.
A reading from the first book of Corinthians, chapter 12. As a body is one, though it has many parts, and all the parts of the body, though many, are one body, so also Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slaves or free persons, and we were all given to drink of one Spirit. Now the body is not a single part, but many. If an ear should say, "Because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body," it does not for this reason belong any less to the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were hearing, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God placed the parts, each one of them, in the body as He intended. If they were all one part, where would the body be? But as it is, there are many parts, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, "I do not need you," nor again the head to the feet, "I do not need you." But God has so constructed the body as to give greater honor to a part that is without it, so that there may be no division in the body, but that the parts may have the same concern for one another. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. If one part is honored, all the parts share its joy. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. In that reading, St. Paul was describing a person who was baptized in the life of Jesus. I think sometimes we get caught up in saying, well, you know, we church members. We belong to Christ. We're church members. And I don't know about that person there or that person over here. What I think that we really have to stop and begin with is the fact that everything in creation was created through the eyes of the Word of God. The Word we have come to know as Jesus, who is the Christ. So everyone who has been born, everyone that will be born, is a reflection of the divine. And so we come today to see how that reflection has lived, has been treated, perhaps abused. And we must see that that vision of God has to be completed in each person. So at this time, I'm going to ask our panel here to share their experiences of being a person in the community. And I'd like to, again, begin with Catherine.
Thank you, Father. So I have one experience that, when we are all saying the Our Father, our priests always ask us to stretch our hands across the aisles, but not everybody is willing to hold our hands. So, that kind makes you feel you do not belong, but, you just try and do the best all we can. Thank you.
As we discuss this difficult topic, I would say that I'm a sinner, and I want to at least confess to you that as I have suffered some of the pains of racism, I have, at least in my thoughts, participated in inflicting that pain to others. And that is important to recognize, because Jesus Christ came to save us all sinners. In Panama, we have a different culture than here. When the Spanish came and conquered Panama, there were Indians there, but blacks came. And instead of separating, what happened is that there was a mixture. Spaniards with blacks, Spaniards with Indians, and Indians with blacks. So in Panama we have these mixtures of race. Yet, since we all have in all our families, I have my father practically black, my mother from Colombia has Indian blood and all that, we still find a way to discriminate between each other. And when I was young, I remember some, friends, kids, neighbors saying, "Hey, your father is black," and all that, and you felt that discrimination, but it's not even near to the pain that other people have felt. I mean, that's one of the experiences that I have there. But when I was came to this country, I participated in the pro-life movement, and I visit in Detroit, outside of those houses that perform the abortion. I would see that Hispanics and people of color will come and seek for that. And then I was wondering why all of these to these people, and as a brother to people of other races, including myself, I felt the pain that they were rejecting, for one reason or another, to have a precious baby like my daughter, like my son. And when you hear the statistics that there are, most of these clinics are in those neighborhoods, you would say there is something wrong here. Also, one last experience is that at some point we became members of a golf club, and a friend of a friend just commented to me, "Oh, that's good. People will admire you for that, but they still will talk about you in the locker room." And I say, "Oh." Not that I was completely surprised, but still pains you a little bit to know that that's a fact.
Thank you so much. Joyce?
Yes, as an African American businesswoman, unfortunately, I have been subjected more times than I would want to be to systematic racism. I've seen many situations over and over again where we were more than qualified, had the positions and jobs that we were doing well, no complaints, everyone's happy, services are provided accordingly, we met all the credentials, and just like that, it was taken away from us. As I would ask, what is the reason? There was none. They said we chose to go in a different direction. So many of the people that were the clients and customers were coming, and they were very upset and saying, "We don't understand why you're leaving, or why you're no longer going to provide services to us. Your food is excellent, you're professional, you meet all the credentials, but yet you're being replaced." Again, I've gone to these people in these situations in corporate America, and they said it's just simply time to give someone else an opportunity. Now, keep in mind, these situations happen right after they had offered us many different dates and opportunities to say, "You choose whatever you want, that's how much we like you." But obviously, someone else didn't, and they felt that they wanted to give these opportunities to someone else, and we come to find out later that the jobs were given to other vendors who were white. And as we returned back to that site to do other catering for other clients that was in the facility, we were told that they didn't even match us. On a scale of 1 to 10, some gave them a 0. And they said that their performance was awful. I was informed that they were late, they weren't professional, ran out of food, quality of food was poor, credentials did not match ours, but yet they were given the position. I can't help but believe someone that was there, why didn't you speak up, that was white? It really upset me because it's happened so many times. And I mention this because the code of silence must be broken. And that's my plea today as we go forward, sharing with one another who's going to speak up and break the code of silence.
Thank you, Joyce. Teresa?
I haven't had like a personal experience that happened to me. However, my husband, he's been in the United States for over 30 years, and he keeps mentioning this incident that happened, and especially over the last couple of months, you know, he keeps bringing it back to me, and it was a simple, just a fender bender accident. A white lady made a wrong turn, and he barely hit her car. He was on his way to work, and you know, he's a man who he loves to dress up. So he came out, he's well dressed and everything. Not that it matters or should matter. He called a police, and this happened somewhere on Windy Hill, and he called the police, and he's the one who called the police, yet when the police came, the policeman asked him to go into the back of the police car, put him in the back of the police car. It was a white policeman, and he said he was in the car. He's never been have any issues with the law. And there was there's no handle, to get out. And he said just that experience, it may seem very small, very minute, but these are the things that grows from one thing to another. And he said he felt really humiliated, really belittled. Because why? I mean, he's the one who called the police, yet he's been placed in a police car. When he asked the policeman afterwards, why? He said, because he doesn't want a hostile environment to be created. And, he keeps, this incident, as small as it may seem, he wasn't physically abused like what has been, I've seen lately, but it impacted him so much that he's mentioned that from before I even came to the United States, just to get me prepared for how things can be here. And this is what you hear from our Black mothers, preparing their sons for how they're going to be treated. And over the last couple of months, the last few weeks, with that incident with Floyd, all this came back to me, just this simple incident with my husband, and it's hurtful. I don't know how much more we can try to be an equal part of this body of society. We're all supposed to be one, like, we heard in the scriptures. Why are we treated differently? Yeah. It hurt me so, I've been hurt so badly over the last couple of weeks, so much that I literally look at my complexion and I'm like, why would someone want to treat me differently because of my skin color? I'm just as equal as you are, We have to learn to live as one. I can't fathom it. I come from Jamaica, and we don't experience, racism like, we don't really experience racism as such. There are other things, but not like that. And it just hurtful so much that I've never seen myself as not being equal, but I just felt, just watching even that video with Floyd, I'm gonna be honest, I felt belittled. Mm-hmm. I felt so hurt. I feel like I don't know who to trust, to the extent that I said, should I come back to church? Because, it's predominantly white, mm-hmm. and I go out there these days and I feel like, am I accepted? Am I truly accepted? Mm-hmm. Are they just smiling with me and not accepting me? And then the worst part about it is that I have an accent. I'm an immigrant. And it makes me feel uncomfortable these days. I've never felt uncomfortable. Not never, but not in this way. But for the last few weeks, I'm really feeling very hurt, very uncomfortable. So much so that my husband said, he would go back to Jamaica to live. And he's been here for 30 years. How much longer? How much long? 400 years. How much more can we do to be equal? It's stressful. It really is. And I really pray in Jesus' name that we can one day learn to live together truly as one, brothers and sisters.
Teresa, thanks so much for sharing. Actually, thank you, Joyce, and thank you all for being part of this. And I know that sometimes we live life, and I think we feel the pain much deeper because we know that there is more. There's more. And I'd just like to share a story. I was pastor at the Blessed Sacrament Church down in Atlanta, east side of Atlanta. It was a predominantly black parish. And one night I got a phone call, and people needed food. And so we had a food bank. And I picked up the groceries, and I put them in my car, and I drove down, and it was in the apartments down in Atlanta, and I said, oh my God, what am I getting into, And I found the apartment. I went and knocked in, and there was this black family there, and they were all staring at me, and I was starting to feel very uncomfortable for some reason, And then thoughts were going through my mind, is that is this man, this white man, bringing food? Is it looking down upon them, and so on? But we were able to pass times and exchange kind words, and they said thank you, and I left. And as I was driving back to the rectory, I got a flat tire right in that district, and I was alone in the car, and I said, what is going on? So I stepped out of the car, and this other car came up, and it was filled with black people, black men. And I'm not the tallest Italian in the world, but I was looking up at them, and I said, oh, God, what's going to happen? They came out and changed my tire. I said, how could I think these thoughts? There were these men, these young men who came out, and they performed an act of charity for me. And I'll never forget that. So oftentimes I feel that we, just by appearances, we put people in boxes. We look at someone, we evaluate them, and say, this is what this person must be. And boy, do we get it wrong. At least I get it wrong. Since we have the opportunity to spend these moments together and being part of St. Anne's family, perhaps you can offer to the family some practical insights of how to respond to our brothers and sisters, and how to respond during racist acts. Joyce?
Yes, I actually have some things that I feel that would really help us and help those who are observing these acts or behaviors. I believe that racism is truly a matter of the heart. I truly believe it begins with the heart, but it's a matter of being educated as well. And there are different resources that are available on cable. There's Hulu, there's also Amazon Prime, and there's Netflix. They have these documentaries that I think each family may want to consider what's age appropriate or what's appropriate for their family. There's one that's called I Am Not Your Negro by James Baldwin. Now, some of these are probably a little rough. Nevertheless, again, it should be age appropriate and what that family member thinks is going to best fit their scenario and their family. There's also one that's called 13.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot out there that I believe that families can consider on what they can do to educate themselves, families. And also, I truly believe that it begins with teaching them young as preschool, to start to really pour into our children as babies about the fact, as Martin Luther King Jr. stated, to teach them to see people for the character of their content and not the color of their skin. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Yes, I like the reading that we had at some point today, or the question that basically explained this commandment of love God and love your neighbor as yourself. in just that sentence, everything is summarized. So what can we do? I would think is love is the answer. Who can show us what love is? It's Jesus. It's Jesus Christ. So he's working in our conversion reflectively all the time. Am I really loving God? Am I loving my neighbor as myself? So we are parting that love of neighbor of what is it to love me, myself. I want these things to happen to me. I want to be able to eat. I want to have opportunities. I want to be able to laugh, work, do all those things. So then I have to now bring all those good things that I want for me to my neighbor. And who's my neighbor? Everyone. No exception. No exception for the class, for the education level that the person have, for the color of their skin, for anything that we may find as a division between me and that other person. So if we start seeing that consciously, hey, I need to love my neighbor as myself, guided by the love of God, then we can start healing.
So I want to thank you again for sharing. And we have some questions that we would like to propose to our listeners, watchers. And we'll begin with this first one. Have I fully loved God and fully loved my neighbor as myself? Is there a root of racism within me that blurs my vision of who my neighbor is? Have I caused pain or offense to others by my actions or my words? Have I ever witnessed personal or institutional racism and said nothing, leaving the victim to address their pain alone? How am I called to respond to the evil of racism? God calls each one of us by name, not by color. He calls us by name to be his children. And so we would like to conclude with this special prayer that we have this evening. And is a prayer that racism may be obliterated. Wake me up, Lord, so that the evil of racism finds no home within me. Keep watch over my heart, Lord, and remove from me any barriers to your grace that may oppress and offend my brothers and sisters. Fill my spirit, Lord, so that I may give service of justice and peace. Clear my mind, Lord, and use it for your glory. And finally, remind us, Lord, that what you said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Amen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, and God bless you all.